Welcome back to Company Grip Guitar. I am Ben, and today I'm looking at the Harley Benton Agufish Custom Signature Limited Edition guitar. So ever since I started my channel, however many years ago that was, whenever I've done a review on a budget guitar, there's always a comment that says, you've got to check out Harley Benton guitars. Well, I'd never even heard of Harley Benton. I've never seen them before. It's not something that was available at my local big box retailers. But I did happen to stumble across this recently, and I thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity to check out these Harley Benton guitars. So this is the Agufish Custom Signature Limited Edition guitar. These went on for sale around October, November, somewhere around there. I placed my order immediately. This is from Thomann, across the seas there. And somehow this took about 6 months to get here. It had a very long transatlantic journey, I'm guessing, plus probably some manufacturing delays. Well, here it is. I'm definitely pleased to try it out and see what it's all about. Now, one thing I did notice upon opening the box was the neck humbucker here had actually unscrewed from one of the pickup rings here and was just kind of floating in that cavity in there. And believe it or not, there's also some other stories from other stateside purchasers of the exact same thing happening. And not just one other. I've probably read about 4 stories now where one pickup unscrewed. So whatever's going on in the packaging material and the vibration of whatever freighter is traveling across the ocean, it's having some effect on these pickup ring screws in the neck position. Strange thing, right? So Agufish, or rather Hunter, as he's known to his friends, family, and peers no doubt, is a fellow YouTuber that's got over 1,000 guitar-related videos. He's got nearly 250,000 subscribers, fantastically talented. He has a partnership here with Harley Benton to come out with his own signature edition guitar. Now, as I understand it, this is the second iteration of that guitar. The first one came out in 2020. They didn't know how it was going to sell, and turns out it sold out overnight. They were very excited to make another one, but it took 4 or 5 years to come up with it because of COVID and the delays that were involved in that, plus time just getting away from you. So the second model here, as you can see, is in this pretty crazy purple burst. This is the 25-inch scale model. There's also a 28-inch scale baritone model. About 2 or 3 weeks after the custom signature model here was released, they came out with a Agufish standard edition in a different set of colors. So you could get the seafoam green in 25-inch scale, or you could get an ebony guitar in 25-inch scale and also the 28-inch scale baritone. Now, this guitar retailed for $545, which I believe at the time was about $50 or $75 more than the standard editions. Now, remember, that was 6 months ago when I ordered this, 6-7 months ago. Nowadays, if you look at the Thomann site, it's very interesting. The prices have seemingly flip-flopped. The custom edition is selling for $433, whereas you could get the standard edition seafoam for something like $485, about $50 more than that, which is a little odd to me. As with many budget guitars, this guitar showed up in a cardboard box surrounded by some form-fitted foam. I'm always amazed that these guitars always show up in pretty good shape. One of the only guitars I've ever showed up with a cracked neck was an Epiphone, and that was in a hardshell case. I think that was the Epiphone Greenie. Well, this guitar showed up, not really any problems outside of the pickup becoming unmounted, as I mentioned before. Inside this box, well, there's not much. We've got some loose strap lock pieces, it looks like, a wrench for adjusting the truss rod. There's a couple hang tags in here. It looks like a quality control report from John. Thanks for your service, John. And a, in case of emergency, rescue my guitar sticker. That's kind of funny. I like that. As I mentioned, pretty common for these budget guitars not to have any sort of protection other than a cardboard box. I was hoping as a signature edition that maybe this would have a gig bag or so, but alas, no. So, Les Paul style body here. We've got single cut, arch top, quite a bit thinner than what you'd find on a Gibson Les Paul. This comes in at 1 5/8" versus a Gibson Les Paul's 1 3/4", 2 inches. The body on this guitar is actually made of Nyato, which every fiber in me wants to call it Nyato, but the only video I could find where somebody pronounces that is actually answering another question I had from the neurotic guitarist here, which is, wait a minute, Nyato is not NATO? I didn't know that either, but if you watch this video, he's got a pretty decent explanation for it. Now, this really ornate top here is a AAA carved ash top. Very cool. I love the look of it, actually. I love that you can see all the grains, all the circular patterns, the striations. I don't know if you guys remember I did a review on my Gibson SG Voodoo, which, oh look, there it is right there. Also had a all ash body and very similar striations in it as well. Of course, Gibson went with a red and not this purple burst, but I do love the way that this looks. Now moving to the backside of this guitar, I was pretty surprised that there was no belly carve. When I had done some research on Harley Benton guitars, I noticed that most of their Les Paul style guitars, maybe all of them except for this model, had that belly carve there. But I'm okay without it, to be honest. It doesn't bother me one bit. Now one thing I do like though is, even though this looks like a flat black finish in the back, it's actually just barely translucent enough to where you can make out that it's a three-piece body. And speaking of that, the top here is actually three pieces as well, although that's a little bit more difficult to make out with this wild grain pattern. Now moving on to the neck here, something I really like, and a lot of users have reported liking this, is this neck joint here. This thing is smooth as butter. I mean, that is just a beautiful, beautiful little bit of woodwork right there. And speaking of this neck, this is a roasted Canadian maple. Always love this wood. I've got it on a couple other guitars, some of my Godin guitars. It's just a very firm wood, feels great in your hands, very strong, very rigid. This is a Macassar ebony fretboard as well. I love when you just have a very simple plain neck. I mean, unless you're gonna do some fancy inlays or something like that, I don't really need any cheap plastic dots in there. So I love the way that looks. I know that's gonna turn some people off. I have a couple friends that would never play a guitar that doesn't have dot markers. They say they need it, but I'm like, are you looking at the fretboard when you're playing? Are you playing like this? Now the neck and the headstock are joined with a pretty long scarf joint starting back here behind the nut and extending just about to the 3rd fret there. Another thing I like back here behind the nut is this volute. I just always like the way that those look on guitars. Now let's get some measurements of this neck here. So at the nut, it's actually a pretty thin 1.66 inches. On the 1st fret, I'm getting a 0.84, and down here by the 12th fret, I'm getting a 0.93. Now, just in case you're curious, the radius of our fretboard is 12 inches. Now, speaking of angles, our neck angles back from the body at about 2 degrees, and the headstock has a 14-degree angle back, so it's a bit straighter than you'd find on a traditional Gibson guitar. Another thing I really like is this headstock. I love the whole ornate nature of it. It's got a lot of neat carving to it. It's got these bevels on the long sides by the tuners. Those don't need to exist. They don't really serve any function, but I just love that they put the effort into making that something that looks really unique. And I'm pretty sure this whole headstock design is exclusive to the Agufish model, but I don't really know anything about Harley Benton, so please feel free to correct me on that if I'm wrong. Starting at the bottom here, we've got a strap lock system pre-installed on this guitar. I don't know if this is Harley Benton's design or some other manufacturer of strap locks that they've put on here. I've never seen it myself, but it does function very similar to other strap locks. You pretty much install the hardware pieces on your strap, which are thankfully included with the guitar. You slide back this little sleeve here, slip it on, let go of the sleeve, and there you go. Now you're strap locked. Pretty easy. I don't really like strap locks, as I've mentioned before, but I guess it's nice that it comes with both pieces of hardware. I've certainly bought guitars that only came with the button on the guitar and not the actual strap part. Godin, I'm talking about you. Moving on from there, just over from that, we get to our all-metal jack plate here. Now up from there, we've got a WSC stop bar and Tune-o-matic style bridge. This functions just like any other Tune-o-matic bridge. With the thumb wheels, you can raise and lower the individual sides of the bar, and by adjusting the saddles forward or backward, you can adjust your intonation to make it perfect. Now moving up from there, we get to our pickups. These are Roswell Seraphim pickups here. We've got an Alnico 5 ceramic flanker hybrid pickup in the bridge here. And in the neck, we've got a Alnico 5 humbucker. These are both 4 conductors wired to the tone knob for coil splitting, which is pretty cool. Now some readings on these pickups here. For the bridge pickup, I am getting a 12.81. And for the neck pickup, I'm actually getting an 8.97. In the middle there, I'm getting a 5.27. Now when I split the bridge pickup here, I'm getting a reading of 6.51. For the neck pickup, I'm getting a 4.49. Now when I'm both in the middle here, I'm getting a 2.65 with both pickups split. Now let's take a look underneath these pickups and check out the tenon. So this is a long neck tenon. It's probably a little bit hard to see, but with a little editing, there we go. Always a good thing. Underneath the control cavity, we can see that we've got 4 large 500K alpha pots. We've got 2 there for the volume and then 2 push-pulls for the tones for their respective pickup coils. lots of wires in there and a couple Mylar caps. At least it's all put together clean. Up here we've got our three-way switch, nothing too crazy going on there. Now one thing I gotta say about these pots, they feel really good, they roll very nicely. One thing I'm always concerned about with budget guitars, especially the ones that have the dime size pots, is they can feel a little bit gritty at times, or when you're plugged in they get a little bit scratchy. Well, it seems like they didn't spare any expense getting these nice alphas on here, because these feel fantastic. Now popping up here to the fretboard, I want to talk about these frets. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier or not, but these are 22 stainless steel frets, rolled over, very nice too. Overall, just like a great feeling neck on this guitar. The frets are a little bit taller than I'm used to. These are 60 thousandths, but honestly, I love the way they feel. So I really need to go back to the drawing board about what I prefer in guitars and maybe make some adjustments there on my fret height. A couple more things here. So up here underneath the end of the fretboard, we've got our truss rod. Then we've got a couple of inlays here. Now these are actually like a raised metal inlay that's kind of set there on the headstock. You've got the Harley Benton logo, and then what looks like maybe a angel with a halo. I'm sure that means something maybe to either Harley Benton or Agufish. I don't know what it is, so please let me know. Flipping over, we've got our tuners here. Now these are Harley Benton branded 20-to-1 ratio tuners, so you can make the finest of adjustments. Pretty nice, they feel great. The only thing I don't like about them is these tiny tuning keys, but that is a me problem and not a guitar problem, because otherwise they work and function great. A couple miscellaneous things before we get to the sound test here. We've got an all black plastics package here. That's the selector tip, the pickup rings, and these speed knobs here. Now these are very interesting speed knobs in that they look like regular speed knobs, except for the top portion has a rubber lining, which makes it very easy to adjust, but more importantly, for the push-pull, very easy to get a grip on those. Some guitar I reviewed recently that had the push-pull pots and the worst possible knobs that you could have on it. I don't remember what the guitar was, but you just couldn't get a grip on them. So this alleviates that problem. We've got a nice 7-ply binding going around the body here. This is an alternating white-black. Looks very nice on there. Moving up to the neck, we've got no inlays, as I mentioned before, but we do have these side dot markers, and something that's not very well advertised is that these glow in the dark, which is kind of a neat feature. You just need to charge them up in sunlight or with a flashlight or something like that. Moving up to the nut, this is a Tusk nut, permanently lubricated supposedly. Very nice nut, works great on this guitar. We've got an ebony truss rod cover. And then on the back side there, we've got the Agufish logo. I appreciate that it's on the back side of the neck and it's not like on the front here, like, hey, this is the Agufish signature. I like the subtlety in that on a very, very loud guitar anyway. The feel of this guitar is great. As I mentioned before, it's not as thick as a Les Paul and it doesn't feel as thick as a Les Paul, but it does actually have some weight. So this comes in at about 8.25 pounds, or that's 8 pounds and 4 ounces. As far as the neck dive, which I think everybody's going to ask about, well, let's give it a shot. I'm going to use the strap locks that came with the guitar because why not? So we'll put this one on here, wrap this one around here, and let's see. A little bit of neck dive, but not too bad considering the scale is a little bit longer than a traditional Les Paul. What about when I'm sitting down? Because I always get that question now, what is the sitting neck dive? Which, again, not something I've ever worried about, but yeah, it's got a little bit of that. I don't know if you can see that it's got a natural desire to tilt down towards the neck. Again, nothing that's really ever bothered me, but just so you are aware. All right, so now it's time to do the sound test here. If you've seen my videos before, then you know exactly what to expect. If you haven't seen it before, though, I put all the settings for the guitar on the side there so you can follow along with whatever the knobs are at, as well as what pickup I'm using. I will also have a camera down on my pedals so you can follow along with those settings. Today I'm going to be using the Joyo American Sound and the Wampler Tumnus pedal. Those are going into a clean mic'd Bugera V5 amp, which then goes to my computer. And sometimes in my computer I add reverb or delay as I see fit. Nothing that's ever too muddy or too changing of the sound. That being said, I have also reset up the guitar to my specifications, which is pretty low action, and I use Stringjoy custom strings. This is a set that I've designed for my playing style. You should definitely check them out because they're pretty cool. But I should mention that this guitar normally comes with the DR Dragonskin coated 10 to 46 strings. With that being said, let's get into this sound test now. In conclusion, I have to say that the Agufish Custom Signature guitar is, no joke, probably one of the best guitars I've played in a long time. First off, this neck is amazing. The satin finish is like done just perfect so that it's still gives you a little bit of friction that you need to kind of find where you're going and not slip all over the board there. But then just enough smoothness so that with the lightest letting go, you can slide freely on it. So I really like that about it. The fretwork is also phenomenal. These stainless steel frets are just fantastic. The 25-inch scale of the guitar didn't give me any problems. I doubt it would give anybody else any problems. I mean, it's so imperceptible for the most part. The bad, though, I would say, is I'm not a fan of this bridge pickup at all. I thought it was just kind of harsh. It was a little bit thin at times as well. And then the neck pickup, I thought it was maybe a little bit too muddy and it never really cleared up too much. It's interesting because on the Roswell site, you can actually pull up the specs on the pickups, and I didn't really find that that matched what I was getting out of these. But that being said, you know, they're more than capable enough to get something recorded. It's just, they didn't really do it for me. And I've read similar stories from other users like, oh, this is a phenomenal guitar, plays great, but I'm gonna swap out the pickups. But people swap pickups all the time. I mean, you'll see somebody buy an $8,000 custom shop guitar and the first thing they do is swap out the pickup. So not every pickup is for somebody. And as far as I understand it, Hunter is more into maybe harder music or metal, and these pickups might just be more suited for that and not for the little like jazz riffs and motifs that I play, understandably, right? So that's my review of the Agufish Custom Signature guitar in Purple Burst. Let me know what you guys think of this guitar or Harley Benton guitars. I know some of you obviously are fans because you've written comments to me about doing reviews on one, so I hope this did it justice. And you were right, yeah, they are fantastic guitars. At least this one is for the price. I don't know if I'm going to end up keeping it in the long run just because I always need to make room for new guitars, but I have to say, right now it's definitely at the top of the list of one of the better guitars I've reviewed for 2025, though I will admit my reviews are, well, a little bit lacking so far this year in quantity, but hopefully by the end of the year we can see how this guitar stacks up against some other budget models. All right. Thank you for taking the time to check out my video. I always appreciate it. I know these videos can run a little bit long. If you're fans of this kind of content, please consider subscribing or at least clicking the like button because that helps me out. All right, I will talk to you next time.